Good morning and welcome back to the Planet Doug podcast for Monday, November 18th, 2024. It's just after 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting inside my room at a hotel, the Malahayati Hotel in Tanjung, Balai, Sumatra. And just outside my door, I can hear this unbelievable roar of traffic. I guess during a Sunday, you do get accustomed to a lower level of roar, like urban roar, does decrease even in Sumatra. So maybe your brain and your ears get used to that level of roar. And then on Monday morning, when everybody's up and going back to work and going back to school and everything is back to normal, the roar increases so dramatically and you really notice it. So yeah, it's really quite something what's going on out there. So this morning, I have a few things to talk about before I start the day. Of course, I've got my cup of coffee going. This is the Planet Doug podcast is basically my thoughts over my morning coffee here inside my room. I'm going to pause here for a slurp of coffee. And yesterday, Sunday, I set most of that day aside for logistics. I find I need a ton of energy to do that. I have to think about it in advance. I have to work myself up. I have to build up my energy levels, my mental focus. I have to make sure I go to sleep the night before and get a good night's rest. That was Saturday night, and the idea is Sunday morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to make actual logistical travel decisions, commit to dates, book flights, book ferries, book hotels, do all those sorts of things. And I find it very difficult sometimes to get up the energy to do that because it can take a long time, takes a lot of focus, and there's so many points at which things can go wrong. But anyway, as I talked about in the last podcast, in case you missed it, there's been a huge shift on Planet Doug, at least in terms of short-term plans, because a Planet Doug subscriber and a mystery benefactor reached out to me and mentioned that they're going to be passing through Jakarta here in Indonesia for one night. And if I can manage to get to Jakarta to meet with him, then he would like to gift me and my YouTube channel a brand new high-powered video editing laptop. And the laptop that's coming my way is an Asus TUF A16 with a Ryzen 7 CPU and a Ryzen 7 GPU. So it has a discrete, what they call a discrete GPU, a graphics card. And it's quite the machine. I've never had anything quite like it in my life. I didn't really dream really of having anything like that. So that's what I'm doing. I am taking a detour. Rather than just continuing with my normal plans here in Sumatra, I'm actually taking a detour, going to Jakarta. This is all happening on November 30th, December 1st. So I have to go there to meet up with this guy. And it makes my life pretty complicated because, first of all, I have to get to Jakarta. How do I do that from here? It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And my visa for Indonesia expires on Sunday, this coming Sunday, on November 24th. So I had a choice. I could stay in Indonesia, fly from Medan to Jakarta, but in order to do that, I would have to extend my visa for another 30 days because it expires on the 24th. But then I don't actually have to be in Jakarta until a week later. So things would get a little bit complicated if I did that. And then when I was crunching the numbers, it turns out that the visa extension, if I got one that started on like November 25th, it expires on Christmas Day. So I would end up having to leave Indonesia right in the middle of the Christmas holidays, because that visa extension could not be extended again. I would have to leave the country. Plus, I would have used up so many days going to Jakarta and doing all these things that by the time the dust settled from that detour, there wouldn't be very much time left on the 30-day visa anyway. So it's just like you're always racing against the clock. So anyway, that was one option, and it's not a bad option. I could have followed through on it, and it may even have been a better idea than what I'm doing. It's hard. It's really so hard to say. There's so many variables, and to be honest, it comes down to a certain extent to mood and little details. How do you feel about what you want to do? But anyway, the other option for me is actually to take the ferry back to Malaysia and then fly from Kuala Lumpur to Jakarta. And that has a lot of advantages for me. It's actually cheaper. Weirdly enough, going to another country and flying from there is actually cheaper than flying domestically. If it's not cheaper, it's roughly the same cost. There's no difference in cost between flying from Medan and going to Malaysia and flying from Kuala Lumpur. And it's a little bit more convenient for me because I can take the ferry from right here in Tanjung, Balai. I can just hop on the boat. I don't have to travel to go to Medan. I don't have to get accommodation in Medan. I don't have to travel out to the airport. All I need to do basically is get a bait check, takes me to the dock, and I hop on the boat. And then I'll be back in Port Dickson. And then the idea is that I fly to Jakarta, but of course I'll have to get a new visa for Indonesia, but it won't be a visa extension. It will be a brand new e-visa, I hope. More about that in a minute. And if I get a brand new e-visa, I get 30 days. The day I show up in Jakarta, another 30-day visa starts. So the clock is ticking. And then it can be extended for another 30 days. So basically, I'd be arriving in Sumatra with a fresh 60-day option of staying in the country if I wanted to do that. So that appeals to me a lot more. I wouldn't have as much worry about visas and visas expiring. And then, of course, I could just stay in Sumatra. During the Christmas holidays, I would be here, and I would not have to travel. I would not have to be faced with Christmas airports and hotels being fully booked and everything being twice as expensive, etc. Which, yeah, traveling during the Christmas, New Year's holidays, traveling during Chinese New Year, that's always a bad thing. Plus, the second option, if I do follow through on that and get a visa extension, then my visa extension would expire just before the Chinese New Year holidays. And in theory, I would be able to return to Malaysia at that time, and I would get into the country before the chaos of the Chinese New Year starts. So it all seemed to work out. And there were some other reasons why it was appealing to me to return to Malaysia right now from here. So anyway, that was the choice that I made. And then that meant, well, I don't have to worry about the ferry. I'm actually going to go to the ticket office for the ferry this morning and buy my ticket for the boat going back to Port Dickson. And oddly enough, there's a couple of days where they don't have a boat. Like my visa expires on November 24th, so that's the day I wanted to go, but there's no boat on the 24th. So then I thought, okay, well, let's go on the Friday. Let's go on the 22nd. Maybe that would be a good day. But then there's no boat on the 22nd either. That's a Friday. At least when I look at the schedule, there's no Friday boat. Their online schedule, it says there's nothing available. So that left me with choosing between Wednesday and Saturday. And I think I'm going to choose Saturday. And the reason Well, I think there's a boat on Thursday too. Anyway, I'm trying to decide between Thursday and Saturday. And the reason Thursday might be a better option is because when I get to Malaysia, I have to apply for another Indonesian e-visa online. And I don't know how they feel about things on the Indonesian website. So for example, if I exit from Indonesia on Thursday, then if I apply for my new visa online on Friday, will that cause a problem? Like, oh, you just left Indonesia and now you're applying for a new visa to return. I'm wondering whether there's a cooling off period. Is there something in their computer system that says you have to wait 2 weeks before you can apply for a new visa? I haven't heard about that, but then again, most people don't do the sorts of things that I do. So a lot of the problems or a lot of the questions I have, other people never face these situations. So I can't find this information online. And there's also a question of how long it takes to get the visa. So anyway, I was wondering, like, if I take the ferry on Saturday, I can't really do anything on Sunday because I think even immigration online stuff is closed. So I could wake up Monday morning, get online, apply for the visa, and then I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in order to get the visa issued. And is that enough time? It should be, based on my previous experiences. You actually get it pretty fast, assuming you fill out the form correctly and your payment goes through and you don't have any problems. They will issue, if they approve it, you will get the visa pretty quickly. So that shouldn't be a problem. But more time is always better. So I was thinking I could go on Thursday, and then Friday in Malaysia, I can apply for the visa, submit my application, and then I've got the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the next week to get my response. Anyway, those are some of the questions I was thinking about yesterday. And then I settled in to book my flight. The most important flight is the one from Kuala Lumpur to Jakarta, because I have to meet my mystery benefactor at a very exact time. I can't miss that appointment. So I had to make sure, that flight is the key to this whole operation, the TUF operation. And so, yeah, I went on to AirAsia. AirAsia offers the best deals. And I looked for a flight, and to my delight, I've been on top of this for a while already. Obviously, I've been looking up these things, and I knew there were some good flights available. And I think I booked a flight leaves at 11:50 in the morning, 10:50 or 11:50, and that gets me into Jakarta at about 1 o'clock, and that's perfect, because then I can go directly to the hotel and check in at 2 or something like that. And I really want to do that because my mystery benefactor, who's gifting Planet Doug the laptop, he's making it as easy as possible for me, and he booked me a room at the same hotel where he's staying. And it's a hotel out near the airport. So, and it's a step up from my normal style of accommodation. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to spend 2 nights in a nicer hotel than I'm accustomed to. So I want to take advantage of that. I don't want to arrive at midnight and then have no chance to enjoy the room. So I want to arrive around 2 o'clock, check-in time, and then I can check into my room at 2, and then I can enjoy the hotel room, hopefully enjoy nice Wi-Fi, hot water shower, perhaps. Surely a hotel out by the airport will actually have hot water and things like that, and probably a kettle and complimentary coffee, and I'm not sure. I looked at the hotel online, and we're not talking about 5-star, world-class Sheraton or anything like that. But as I said, it's quite a nice hotel in the world of Planet Doug, so I'm quite excited about that. And I'll be staying there for 2 nights, and then, like I said, so anyway, I booked the flight, and that went well. Well, there's always one hitch for me, and this always makes me nervous, and it's got nothing to do with Air Asia. It's not a problem with them. Their booking system has gotten better and better. There used to be glitches that I encountered. I remember there was always a glitch, like if you got one of the value packs and you got a meal included in the value pack, then you would get this message, a window or like a whole page where you choose all of your value pack items. You choose your seat, you choose your luggage, you choose your meal, and then I would choose the meal that I want, and then I would get a message saying, oh, you've selected 2 meals, but you only get 1 in the value packs. I'm like, huh? But you told me to choose a meal. So then I would go back and I would unselect my meal, and then it would say, oh, sir, you haven't selected a meal yet. You can't go on to the next stage until you select a meal, or something like that. So I'd select a meal, and they'd say, oh, you have 2 meals selected. I was like, what? Anyway, there was a glitch there. And eventually I learned that you could just skip it altogether. So you just don't choose a meal. Then you could move ahead with your booking. And then you get to the very end. And at the very end, you get another message that says, oh, you have to choose a meal. So then I would choose one, and then it was allowed to go through. But when you tried to choose a meal at the choose a meal stage, you ran into a problem where they said, now you have 2 meals. It's like, okay, anyway, that glitch is now gone. And then you get to that stage now, and they say, choose a meal. I open up the window, and I choose a meal, and then I close it, and then you can move on to the next stage. But the problem for me is always the same one. It's always payment, and it's always because of my bank in Canada. They make things so difficult. And whenever I book a flight on Air Asia, and then I try to pay for it with my credit card, a window pops up that says I have to verify with a security code that it's me. And they only offer 2 ways. The main way, they want to phone you. They want to give you a phone call. But of course, my phone number on record with my credit card company is my home phone number in Canada, and I'm not there. It's like they only accept a physical landline, as far as I can tell. They have to call you on the phone, and then there's a computer voice that says, hello, your security code is, and they tell you the number. And I had no choice but to do this once before, and I had to contact people in Canada, and then I had to have them, we had to schedule a time, like it's some sort of a Mission Impossible scenario where they're sitting beside the phone, because you only have like 60 seconds to do this, and then you have 5 minutes or 3 minutes to enter the code. It's like a ticking time bomb. And then they would have to be, and of course you got the time difference. It's a 12-hour time difference between here and there. So there's a lot of planning that goes into this. And then I will book the flight, and I get the security code notification. I say, call me, and then people in Canada have to answer the phone. And of course, they have to have their computers up and running. These people that I know in Canada don't have smartphones for some reason. They're not really wired into the modern world for some odd reason. But anyway, they would have to have their computer running at the same time and have like a chat window open on Facebook. And then they would get the phone call, they would get the code, type it into Facebook, and then I would get the message on my Facebook, and then I would type the code in, and we have to time it so carefully. Anyway, it's a whole thing, as you can imagine. But the other option is they can email it to you, but the problem there is they will not accept normal email addresses. So they won't send it to a Gmail address, they won't send it to a Microsoft, Yahoo, like any of the big free email servers out there in the world. My bank won't allow you to use them I guess because they don't have high enough levels of security, the only email address they'll accept is a paid private account. And one thing that qualifies for that is if you have a website of your own that you pay for, you have your own domain, you can set up your own email addresses based on that domain, and that is considered more secure, and it is considered a private paid email account. So I did that with my old website, the Cycling Canadian, and I have an email address from when I maintained that website, and that is still on record with my bank in Canada. And one of the only reasons I still maintain that website is because I need that email address. And every time I run into this issue online, I click on that option, praying that it will work, because I don't know, I don't even know where this email address is anymore. I don't know how I set it up. I don't know why it's still working or how it's still working. It's just a relic from my past. But when I choose it, it does work. And then I get a notification on my phone. I got an email from the Cycling Canadian, and it contains a security code, and I put it in and it works. And I was able to pay for the flight. And it's all quite ironic, because I can guarantee you that that email address that I set up on my disaster of a website is far, far less secure than Gmail would be. I mean, like a 3-year-old using a speak and say would be able to hack my systems and take over my entire world. So Gmail would be far more secure than, well, don't tell my bank this, but yeah. But it still works, and I was able to pay, I was able to get the flight, I was able to check in, and everything is good to go. And so now I'm flying from Jakarta, no, I'm flying from Kuala Lumpur to Jakarta for my big laptop meeting with my mystery benefactor. Yeah, I've got some all kinds of fun stories with my mystery benefactor, because he wanted to help me out in other ways, and he was watching one of my most recent videos where, once again, I broke my reading glasses, and I mentioned I buy these really cheapo, like $1 reading glasses from 7-Eleven or from some at the side of the road or some like the dollar store variety. When I was in Kuala Lumpur last, I found like a dollar store that sold reading glasses, and I bought some there, and then I promptly broke them. And I have to get several pairs because they come in different powers, and I need one power if I want to look at my smartphone close to my face or read a book, look at a map, something like that. But then if I try to use those glasses with a laptop screen or a tablet, it's fuzzy because it's too far away. So I need a different pair of reading glasses for laptop distance, smartphone distance, and then if I want to look around my room, I have to take my glasses off or put on a third pair of reading glasses, because I need a different power for all these different distances. So I'm constantly switching glasses. I've got reading glasses scattered around my hotel room here. They're all like strategically located, and then every time I want to do something else, I have to put on a different pair of glasses. It's the way life is. But anyway, so my mystery benefactor, he sent me a message and said, hey, there are these multifocal glasses that I use, and they're really good, and I'd like to get you a pair. They're from a company called Foster Grants, and I guess they're like trifocals. And what you do is you tell them what power you need for up close. So when you look at your phone, what power are you using for that? You tell them that, and in my case, it's plus 3.0, and then they go from there, and then they make one part of the glasses, the lower part, 3, and then the middle part is for looking at your laptop, and then the upper part is for looking around the room. So they're kind of designed for working in an office, so you can look at your phone, look at your laptop, and then you can look up at someone in the cubicle across from you. So those 3 separate distances are built into the same glasses. So my mystery benefactor, he's going to order a pair of those for me and bring them with him to Jakarta, but he wanted to know, well, what frame would I like, or can he just pick out a frame for me? And I was just going to say, oh, absolutely, just pick out anything that you think would be would look good. But then I thought, well, I don't know, why don't I just go look at the website and choose something? So I went to the website, and for the first time in my life, I think, I used one of these, I don't know if you'd call them AI-powered features, because I think it's been around for a while, even before the AI revolution. But basically, you can upload a photograph of yourself, and then they will take the different frames and put them onto, they'll Photoshop them onto your face, and then you can see what they look like. And my history with these sorts of things is not good. I tend not to try out these things. Like, you'll get some sort of a message on the laptop, like, oh, this is amazing, this new feature, and then you get all excited about it and you try to use it, and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. It freezes or it glitches or some sort of problem with it. So I quite often don't believe the hype. But in this case, I did it, and it worked flawlessly. It worked perfectly, and I managed to get all these photographs. I downloaded them to my laptop, and I could see them on the Foster Grants website, and I could copy and paste them into WhatsApp and send them to my mystery benefactor, and I could show him, okay, this pair, this is what they look like, this pair, it's what they look like, and here's this pair, and I think this pair looks the best. What do you think? And he agreed with me. We both chose the same frames. And what I like about these frames too is that the lenses are bigger for this particular frame. The other ones were more narrow, and I'm a little bit worried that having 3 different distances in the same glasses means each section will be quite narrow, and then you will have to sort of angle your head awkwardly in order to see through that part of the lens. So I figure, well, the bigger the better. So I got the biggest, squarest glasses that were available, and I wanted to choose from their masculine set. They had other glasses that were sort of meant for men and women, and then they ended up with a little bit of flair to them, sort of pointy cat eye kind of shapes, and I was like, I don't quite like that. Let's go for the manly ones. So when I was filtering my results to look at like what frames you can apply a filter, I chose, okay, give me the masculine frames, the men only frames, and give me the ones that are available in +3 power, because not all of them were. And then I basically entered all these, and then I got a selection of them, and then I chose out of that selection. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. It was a part of the modern world, felt very futuristic to me, because it looked good too. I mean, I'm no expert. I didn't go pixel peeping. I didn't go into like a 400% zoom in these photos to look to see if there were any imperfections in the photoshopping. But just at a casual glance, it looks like me wearing glasses, and it looks perfect. And this actually is it's a good example of how I'm thinking about the Planet Doug Patreon, because normally when I come across something like this, something that I think is fun and interesting, I talk about it in my journal, whether I write down my journal or I do an audio journal or a video journal. I talk about it as I'm doing now, but then I want to share the story, so then I get onto social media. I'll get onto WhatsApp, or I'll get on, well, I don't usually use Facebook. I never use Facebook anymore, but in the old days, you would get on Facebook, and then I would send a message to a friend someone I think would find it interesting. And these days, I've got 4 or 5 people that I'm in regular contact with on WhatsApp on almost a daily basis. And then I'll bug these people all day long with these random messages, random thoughts. So I'll pick one of them and then I'll write, wow, you won't believe this Foster Grants eyeglasses thing. They have this system where you can try on glasses virtually, and I'll tell the whole story and I'll put in the photographs and I'll send this message to a friend of mine through WhatsApp. And then they look at the message and they write back, oh, that's really cool. But now my idea for Patreon, probably at the free level, is every time I have the urge to bother my friends with, like, bombard them with items like this, I'll take that energy and I'll channel it into Patreon for all of my, all the denizens of Planet Doug on Patreon. I mean, the weird thing is I could do that with the Planet Doug YouTube page because there is the community tab. I could be posting all of these random thoughts, all of these small travel adventures, if you can call it that, to the community tab. But somehow, whenever I tried doing that, it felt like I was getting pushback, that people didn't like it because they're focused on videos for YouTube, and then they'll get a notification, which again is kind of an odd thing. I never think about YouTube notifications because I don't pay attention to them at all. If a friend of mine or someone I'm following posts a new video, I know about it because I visit their YouTube channel all the time, and it shows up in my feed anyway. The notification, I just ignore them. I never use them. I don't pay any attention to them. But I guess some people do. And I guess if I post something random to the community tab, they get a notification and they might think, oh, Doug's posted a new video. So they click on the notification, I guess, but it takes them to the community tab and it's some random thing about buying reading glasses. And they're like, huh? And then they're kind of disappointed and they're upset because that's not what they wanted. It's like, huh, that's got nothing to do with traveling and that's got nothing to do with video. So I was reluctant to use the YouTube community tab unless it's a big video announcement or a big travel announcement. Then I would go to the community tab. But other than that, it didn't feel like the right place to post random thoughts or little snippets. Another one the other day, I was sitting here in my room. This was during, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it was early morning. And the mosque across the road began the call to prayer. And it's very loud where I am. I can hear it very clearly. So I jumped out of bed. I grabbed this Rode wireless Go microphone and I went outside onto the balcony and I recorded like 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the call to prayer. I didn't talk, I didn't say anything, I just recorded the call to prayer. And then I took that audio clip and I uploaded it to the Planet Doug Patreon as an audio file. It's like, hey, this is an audio, and I put a title on the post and a little description. Here is the sound of the call to prayer from a mosque in Indonesia. So little things like that, little snippets, audio snippets, verbal snippets, photo snippets, I can upload to the Planet Doug Patreon. So I did that with the Foster Grants as well. So I uploaded those 3 photos to the Planet Doug Patreon, and I wrote a little story about it, things like that. And my mystery benefactor is bringing me sandals because my sandals are falling apart. They really are. I can't believe it, how quickly these new sandals that I bought just before I went to Vietnam, they're just disintegrating. They're really, I don't think they're nearly as well made as the original pair that I bought. But anyway, so Good timing on that, and my mystery benefactor picked out a new style of sandal. They aren't the normal sandals that I wear now, but they're more like a hybrid between a running shoe and a sandal. It's like a shoe, like a running shoe, but with cutouts, with straps going across the instep. So they're not 100% sealed, but they're half shoe, half sandal. And to be honest, I'm a little bit worried about them because I may have made a mistake. I hope not. I took a risk. He ordered a pair for me, but of course I had to tell him my sizes. And with shoes, of course, you're really just guessing. I've gone into so many shoe stores over the years around the world, and if you pay attention to just the numbers, okay, these are a size 10, you can't rely on them, particularly in Asia, I find. All the shoes will be labeled with a European size, an American size, and then a local Asian size. So I always look at the American size because that's what I use, and I wear a size 10 generally, and then I say, oh, this is an American size 10. And I try to put the shoes on, and they don't fit at all. They're more like a size 8 with like an American sizing. It says, these aren't 10s. What are you talking about? So I learned I cannot rely on what the label says. All you can do, you have to try them on to find a pair of sandals, pair of shoes that fit. That's the only thing. Same thing with shirts. I bought T-shirts in Asia that say triple X, like 3X, triple X large, and they're like tiny on me. And it's like, oh, come on, if this is triple X, what size do I need? It's crazy. So anyway, you cannot rely on sizes in Asia at all. You have no idea what they mean. Even when they specify, okay, these are American sizes, here's the European, you still can't depend on them. The numbers seem to be just random. So I did tell my mystery benefactor, well, size 10, sometimes 10 and a half maybe. I'd really have to try them on to know for sure, but let's go with 10. But then he sent me a message and says, oh, we have a choice between regular and wide. What should I get? And my first instinct was wide. Like if anyone ever says, okay, here's a shirt, what do you want? Do you want extra large or do you want extra, 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 extra large? I always go for the extra, 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 extra just to be safe, because most of the time in my life, things end up being too small. But then I sometimes get things that are way too big. So it's a tough call. So he said not narrow, he said regular or wide. And I was at a restaurant at the time here having I am bakso, and I'm looking down at my feet going, okay, feet, what are you? Are you regular or are you wide? And because it's not narrow wide, it's like normal versus wide, I'm thinking, I think my feet are normal. And I thought about it for a while, and I told him, let's go with normal. But as soon as I wrote to him, okay, let's just pick the regular, that should be fine, I thought, ooh, I should have gone for wide. I'm nervous about this now. But we'll see, because I have had the experience in the past where things stretch, particularly footwear, where all my sandals, for example, whenever I buy sandals, I buy them to fit properly. But then a week later, it's almost like they expanded, like the weight of your body pressing down on the sole has kind of gooshed them and squished them, and then they start spreading out to the side, and they get wider and wider and longer until they end up like canoes on my feet. So I probably would have been better off getting a small, like not a small, but a size that fit nicely, and then they'll stretch a little bit. So anyway, I'm really hoping that 10 regular is going to work out for these sandals, because they look quite nice. They look really special. So I hope we got the sizing correct for that. So yeah, when I go to Jakarta, it's going to be a little bit of a Christmas day for me. That's quite exciting. So getting back to my travel plans, the flight is booked to Jakarta, and then on my reservation at the hotel takes me until December 2nd, and then the plan is to come back here because my bicycle will still be here waiting for me, and then finally I can get on my bike and start riding to Sibolga and riding to Lake Toba and to Sibolga, because I haven't done that yet. And the reason I haven't done that yet is Patreon, because I was supposed to set up Patreon in Port Dickson, but things went kind of wonky in Port Dickson, and I never got around to it. I never found the time to really come to grips with Patreon. And then when I arrived here in Tanjung Balai in Sumatra, I really wanted Patreon up and running. Like all these things I'm doing right now, uploading video to Patreon, figuring out how Patreon works, basically creating my Patreon and uploading my written journal, uploading a video journal, uploading audio journal, uploading audio files, photos, all the things I want to do with Patreon. I really wanted to get that figured out before I dive back into the actual world of Planet Doug. So that's pretty much all I've been doing here in Tanjung Balai. I've been living my life and enjoying myself, but I've been working almost non-stop on Patreon, and it has taken, because of the way I do things, I guess, it has taken a lot longer than I expected. So I still have all of my plans for cycling in Sumatra ahead of me, and then the idea is once I leave Jakarta, come straight back here, and then I can start riding my bike, go up to Lake Toba, and go wherever it is I want to go. So that's the idea. But one thing I was thinking about was I could take a boat to make the journey interesting. I could take a boat from Jakarta back to Sumatra. Here in Indonesia, they have this company called Pelni, Pelni, and it's a large boat company, shipping and passenger boats, freight and passengers. And you can go all over Indonesia by these boats. And I thought it would be quite an adventure to do that. I'm in Jakarta, I'm at the airport. The docks are like 20 kilometers away or something like that. But in theory, I could get from the airport to the dock and take a boat back to Medan and then travel from Medan back here to Tanjung Balai by train. And that could be quite an interesting journey and something fun to document for YouTube. So I wanted to look into that. And what I did was I downloaded the app. I'm learning about these things. It's taken me a long time to figure this out, but I've finally learned my lesson that there are a lot of apps out there. And whenever you, like here in Indonesia, for example, if you want to book a train ticket, download the app from the train system. It's a lot easier to book tickets, and it works really, really well. So I'm learning about the existence of all these apps, and I was just going to go to the Pelni website and start looking things up, and I did go to the Pelni website. They did say, hey, download our convenient app, and it sounded like it was available in English, and I've learned my lesson, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I downloaded the app. I even opened an account, signed up with my email address and a password and all that kind of stuff. I went fully into it. And then I started looking. It's like, how could this work out? But then I did run into an issue with the modern world. This is another Planet Doug pet peeve. A lot of these booking apps, they have it reversed. The logic is opposite to what it should be. So, for example, I was thinking, well, is there a boat on December 2nd? So you go into the app and you say, okay, I want to travel from Jakarta to Medan on December 2nd. You hit enter, and you get a message that says, nope, no schedule available. So I'm thinking, oh, no, there's nothing available on December 2nd. So then I go, okay, December 3rd. So then I enter, okay, I want to go from Jakarta to Medan on December 3rd. I hit enter, and I get a message that says, no schedule available. I'm like, okay. What about the 4th? So then Jakarta to Medan, December 4th, no schedule available. And I'm thinking, why does it work this way? It's like I'm on a treasure hunt. I have to enter the date to find out whether there's a boat available. Like, okay, is there a boat on December 2nd? No. Is there a boat on December 3rd? No. Is there a boat on December 4th? No. Is there a boat on December 5th? No. Like, well, why don't you tell me when there are boats? Like, why do I have to just go through the entire calendar year just guessing and entering dates at random before you tell me whether there's a boat? Can't we flip this around? Like, why don't you tell me when there are boats? And then I finally got to December 6th, and I entered. Oh, it was even more complicated than that, I think, because, when I got to December 6th, I said, okay, is there a boat from Jakarta to Medan on December 6th? And then it said, yes, I got 2 boats listed, and they'd leave from 2 different docks. So I finally found a day when there were boats, but as I said, I had to look for it. I had to enter day after day after day after day. And I really wish the whole system was reversed. I ran into that with menus too, like in Indonesia. I remember the last time I was here, riding my bike and a scooter around the Bukit Tinggi, Padang area, and I'd go into all these little mom and pop restaurants, and they have a huge menu on the board, or a big menu that they hand you, and then you pick something out, and you say, oh, I'll have this, and they say, oh, we don't have that. So you pick something else out, oh, we don't have that. And you pick something, oh, we don't have that either. And I finally said, well, why don't you tell me what you do have? Like, why did you give me a menu of 35 items when you only can make 3 of them? Why don't you tell me the 3 things that you can make today, and that will be a lot more efficient, right? I don't know. This always annoys me, or amuses me, put it that way. But anyway, with the Pelni thing, I finally found out there were boats on December 6th. But then it said, okay, there are 2 different types of boats. There's a liner, and then there's a something else, another name that I didn't recognize. And then I translated it, and it said, in English, it meant pioneer. But I don't know if that's a type of boat or the name of the boat. And I don't know the difference between them. And it also said we have boats from this dock and boats from that dock. But try as I might, I could not figure out where these docks were or what the difference was between these docks. So if I wanted to book a berth on one of those boats, I would have no idea. Okay, what dock are we talking about? Maybe one of them is in Jakarta and the other one is 300 miles away from Jakarta? Or what boat do I pick? I could not find any information about that. So it wasn't an entirely satisfactory experience. But in the end, I thought, well, December 6th, that's too late. I just assumed there'd be a boat every day, to be honest. I thought I could just pick the day I want, but I guess it doesn't work that way. So I would have to wait in Jakarta until December 6th to take the boat. And the boat itself takes like 2.5 days to get to Medan. It's a slow boat, which in other circumstances would be amazing. It would be fine. But now we're talking about, by the time I got back to Tanjung Balai, over a week would have passed. It would be like, no, let me count this up in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 8 or 9 days until I got back here. And then I've used up a third of my visa already. So I thought, okay, maybe that's That's not the best thing to do. So I thought, okay, let's just book a flight. And then it turns out that with these boats, of course, the price goes up and down dramatically depending on the class. And they have the sort of regular economy class where you have like a giant warehouse situation with bunk beds, and all the beds are right beside each other. I saw a video from there's the YouTubers, American couple. They've been driving their motorcycle all around Indonesia for a long time. Two up and overloaded, and they took one of these boats to Borneo, and they shot a whole video about it, and it was certainly an adventure, and it would be fun to do, and I would find it interesting, but there's no way you could argue that it was comfortable, because they went lower class as well, the cheapest kind of ticket you could get, or maybe mid-range ticket, I don't know, but yeah, they're on these upper bunk beds out in the open, and of course the noise just non-stop, just crazy loud noise the entire journey. The boat was filled with cockroaches, and there were cockroaches crawling all over them all night long, and they got no sleep at all, and it's very, very uncomfortable, and you're just out in public the whole time. So I mean, signing up for one of these boat trips, you better know what you're getting yourself into. It's not going to be like a luxury Hawaiian cruise, but then you could book a cabin of some kind if you wanted to spend more, but it's hard to say what those are like, because you're going to be in a cabin probably with 5 other people maybe. One cabin would have 6 people, 3 bunks piled on top of each other, and who knows who you're going to be in there with. When it comes to travel like this, I think Indonesians would be a lot tougher than a North American like me. They're more willing to put up with a lot more, in particular, noise. People in some places in Asia can be almost immune to noise. It doesn't bother them the way it does someone like me. And inside a cabin with 5 other people, all from Indonesia, it could be a lot of noise, and people just playing their phones at high volume. It could be all just crazy amounts of noise. But then, of course, you could get a more private cabin maybe for 2 people. But then by the time you get to that level, it's more expensive than flying. So anyway, I factored all of these things, and so far I haven't booked anything, so I don't know how I'm getting from Jakarta back to Sumatra. I haven't decided yet. I'm leaving that open for now. But I'm leaning towards flying because it's the fastest, and it's by far the most convenient, because I'll already be at the airport because the hotel is right at the airport. So if I fly, all I need to do is get on the shuttle. The hotel shuttle takes me to the airport. I fly to Medan, spend 1 night there, and then I take the train from Medan back to Tanjung Balai. And then the train would be fun. I've done that once already, but that would be a nice little adventure. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So it'd be nice to do that again. So that was a good chunk of my day yesterday. Then I moved on. I had one other adventure that I'm going to use to illustrate another Planet Doug pet peeve, because I had my flight. Well, I have the flight out of Malaysia booked. So now I'm committed. I now must take the ferry to Malaysia, and I'm going to go book my seat. Book my seat on that ferry today. But now Malaysia has this new system. They have an online arrival card, the MDAC, the Malaysia Digital Arrival Card. I think it came into effect. I have the website open on my phone somewhere. There's a big announcement on the website. It says, as of January 1st, 2024. So if you go to the Malaysian immigration website, the landing page has this huge graphic that says announcement, Malaysia Digital Arrival Card, or MDAC, and like everybody, and they make a whole list of people who must complete this. So everybody must complete this online card, except for, and then they list like citizens of Singapore, diplomats, special people who don't have to do it, but everybody else has to do it. And I'm looking at that. I go to the website, and it says, okay, here's the, you do a Google search, Malaysia Digital Arrival Card, MDAC. You click on the link, brings you to here. You get a huge announcement. You must do it. You have to do this before you come to Malaysia. So I'm looking at the page. I'm like, okay, I get it. I have to do it. How do I do it? There's no button. There's no link. It says, you must fill out this online card. And I'm thinking, okay, I want to, but where's the button? Click here to fill out the card. Click here to go to the card. It doesn't exist. I've gone up and down on this website over and over and over, and I could not find how to get to this card. Okay, I get it. I'm supposed to fill it out. That's pretty clear. But where is it? And there's an FAQ section. So I thought, okay, maybe it's under FAQ. There will be a link there. I go to FAQ. Nope, no link to the arrival card. There's a contact us button. There's something called a CISPA button. There's a sitemap button. And then there's like one of these 3-line menu things. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll just open up the menu. There must be a link there to the MDAC. Nope, not there. They do have a main services button for the menu. So I clicked on the main services. Okay, there's passport, there's visa, there's border pass, there's this, there's APAC business travel card, on and on and on. There's a long list. No MDAC. All the services they offer, but the Malaysian digital arrival card is not listed. There's no link to get to it. So I was looking all around this thing. Okay, I get it. I have to fill out one of these cards. Where the heck is it? How do I get to it? And I couldn't find it. And the weird thing is there are QR codes, right? There's a QR code on this announcement. And actually, I should try that right now, just for fun. But I'm looking at the QR code. Well, that probably takes me to the card, right? And that's great. But I'm looking at it on my phone, and my phone is what I need to scan the QR code. So the QR code doesn't help me out either, right? So I guess, okay, then I was thinking, okay, I guess I could go onto a computer, go to the website, open up the website on a computer, get the QR code, scan it with my phone, and then that will take me finally to the actual MDAC. But it just seems so bizarre to me that there's no button to click on. And then, just by chance, I thought, oh, what if I click on the graphic? Because this MDAC graphic announcement is huge. It fills up the entire page. And I thought, well, what if I just touch that? And then I clicked on it, and then it takes you somewhere else. So the graphic itself is a clickable button that moves you forward. But the only way you find this out is if you accidentally touch the screen, or just at random, you touch the graphic. There's no actual button indicator. But the funny thing is, after you stumble across that fact, and then you click on that graphic, it takes you to another site, and that site is a huge graphic that says the exact same thing. It says, the first one was blue and white. This one is red and white, so I guess that makes them different, but it's exactly the same. It says at the very top, announcement, MDAC, Malaysia Digital Arrival Card. Everybody must register. It tells you all the exact same things that the other graphic told you, and it says, there's like a graphic, how to register. And it says step 1, complete and submit the MDAC. Step 2, when you arrive in Malaysia, show your MDAC. Those are the steps. But again, there's no button. Like there's nothing to click on to take you to the MDAC, right? It's like a whole screen that says, you must register the MDAC. And I'm like, okay, I get it. How? And I finally figure out, just click on the graphic. And the graphic telling you must register is a link to another graphic telling you must register. So I'm like, for Pete's sake. It's like, how do I register? And it gives you another QR code. I'm like, well, I can't scan the QR code because I'm using my phone. But then it turns out that this graphic, you can close it. If you look at it carefully, there's a little X up in the top right-hand corner. You click on the X, and then you get another infographic that says, foreign visitors must fill out the MDAC. And then, finally, underneath that graphic, there's a red and white button that says, register. I'm like, finally, could we not have put the register button at the beginning of this journey? So then you click on the register button, like you found buried treasure, and then you finally get to the MDAC. So I finally found it yesterday, and I start filling it out. Name, passport number, date of birth, passport expiry, email address, mobile phone number. The mobile phone numbers always trips me up too, because you're going through it and it asks for passport, asks for email address, confirm email address, then it says country. So I write in Canada. It's asking for my country. It's already asked for my citizenship. It says nationality, so I chose Canada. And then down below that it says country, and I'm thinking, they want to know again? Okay, Canada. And then underneath that it says mobile number. So I start entering my mobile number, but it doesn't work. It won't accept my mobile number. And you struggle with that for a long time. And then you realize, where it says country, they're asking for your country code to go along with your mobile number. It's like, that's what that is. But it isn't clear at all. Anyway, that is also confusing. But anyway, then you have to put in your traveling information. You have to put in your date of arrival, and then you have to put in your date of departure. And normally that's a problem for me because I don't usually have a date of departure and I have to make something up. But in this case, I actually have a flight booked in advance, so I'm pretty happy about that. And then there's another one that's called last port of embarkation before Malaysia. And I know what that means, I get it, and yet I'm always confused by that as well. Embarkation, last port of I've embarked. What does that mean? It's like I have to go to a dictionary and get the technical definition of, so I've embarked before Malaysia. Like, what does that mean? Like, it feels like that language could be more clear. I guess it's just asking me, like, where am I coming from? So I'm coming from Indonesia to Malaysia. But last port of embarkation, I don't know, it's a very confusing one. And then I always fill that out properly, I guess. And then you have to list your accommodation in Malaysia, the address, the state, the postcode. A lot of these things are so annoying because for someone like me, at least in the old days, I would arrive in a country and I wouldn't have anything. I don't know when I'm leaving. I don't know how I'm leaving. I don't know where I'm staying. I don't have an address. And every time I fill out one of these forms, I have to make it up. I just have to pick a hotel at random, a hotel that I know the address of. I have no intention of staying in that hotel, but I have to put one down. So these are the days of Lonely Planet guidebooks. Like, this was before the internet existed and you're filling out one of these forms and you don't know, you can't book hotels in advance back in those days, and you're traveling around the world and the only information you have is a Michelin map and maybe a Lonely Planet guidebook, but you don't have a hotel reservation, you don't have a flight book, you don't have anything. And then all these paper arrival cards would ask you for your hotel in the country, and then you would just refer to your Lonely Planet and find a hotel and then copy all that information. But you have no reservation there and you have no intention of staying there, but you have to fill out the form. So you just invent information. So I went through this entire thing, took a long time. I made a fresh cup of coffee, went through the whole thing, filled out all this information. I got to the very end, and then I got the message. And I knew this. I even knew this, but I completely forgot. You can't submit this form in advance. You can only submit it within 3 days of your arrival, including the day of submission. And I'm not going to be arriving until like 5 or 6 days from now, so it's too early. I have to wait until like the day before my ferry before I can fill this out. So all the work I did filling out this form was a complete waste of time because I can't submit it yet. I have to wait until the day or two, basically 2 days before your flight or 2 days before your boat. So I basically just hit the back button, and everything I'd entered, everything I'd filled out, all the addresses, all the numbers, everything was all lost. It was all a waste of time. So that was my MDAC adventure. But yeah, I find that so puzzling that there you are at the immigration website, the landing page, and it says, you must register. And then, man, oh man, well, okay, I want to. Help me out here, buddy. Why not put the register button there? So that, okay, you must register. How do I register? Oh, there's the button to go to the form. But they don't. They don't put it there. And they don't even tell you how to get. And then when you click on it, it takes you to another graphic that tells you you must register. Anyway, pretty silly. Online stuff. People who design these things. I wonder about them. But I do want to try out this QR code business. So I'm going to scan the QR code with another phone, which is another thing about the modern world. I found that in theory, I mean, not in theory, in practice, you have to have a smartphone these days. If you don't have a smartphone and a local SIM card, you're really in trouble. People ask you, you need it all the time. You could get away without it, but man, it makes your life difficult. But it's getting to the point where you kind of have to have two phones. You have to be two-fisted, like a two-fisted drinker, a whiskey in each hand. You have to have a phone in each hand. I run into that all the time because I'm looking at something in one phone and it's in Indonesian. It's not in English. So then I get out my second phone, I turn on Google Translate, and I have to use one phone to Google Translate my other phone. Or I get a QR code on one phone, but the only way to scan it is by using another phone. So anyway, I'm going to scan the QR code right now and see where it takes me, see what happens. So, successful. I scanned the QR code on one phone using my other phone, and it did bring me to the second graphic. So I do find that kind of funny because, as I said, you get the first graphic, you must register, and you have to guess that it's like a treasure hunt. You have to click on the graphic in order to continue, and then it takes you to a second graphic that tells you you must register, and you're still not at the arrival card. So it turns out if you scan the QR code, it doesn't actually take you to the MDAC, it takes you to the graphic that you have to get past in order to finally get to the MDAC. So yeah, not a great design overall, but I guess that's par for the course. You eventually figure these things out. Just strikes me as weird. As I've talked about before, I see these things that look so obvious, and you just sort of look at it, and like if I were like a tester, and the Malaysian government brought me in as a tester and put me down in a room and said, okay, we want you to test our new MDAC system, and here's a phone, please register. And then if they watch me, the first thing I would do, of course, is do a Google search. Malaysia, I might look for the Malaysian immigration website, or I might just type in Malaysia digital arrival card, or MDAC, and then I would scan the links, and then I would look for the one that looked official, and then you go there, and the first thing I would see would be this giant graphic that says you must register, you must submit an MDAC before coming to Malaysia. And then I would sit there and go, okay, where's the button? First thing I would think, okay, I get it, I got to register, but where is the form? And then as a tester, I'd turn to the guys and say, listen, you need a button right here. Like it says, you must register. Underneath that, have a button that says, click here to register. Duh. Like I said, I'm no genius, but it's pretty obvious. It's so obvious. It makes me think that there must be something in human nature, in office structure, in a bureaucratic hierarchy, that these things just get overlooked. If I see it, the people who made it must see it, but for some reason they can't fix it. Why not? Like, do they have to go through some sort of chain of command approvals? They've got to submit forms and get their supervisor to sign off. I mean, is it a huge, long procedure to fix things? I just don't know. I don't know how these things work. Anyway, that is where I'm at. And as I said this morning, I'm going to be going to the Indomall Fast Ferry office. It's 3-4 kilometers away, maybe downtown. I'm going to go downtown, go pay for this ticket, and yeah, that'll be my big adventure for today. And this is another sort of Patreon thought that just popped into my head. It's another interesting situation where normally my Planet Doug instinct would be to shoot a video about this experience. Me getting on my bike, riding to the ticket office, buying a ticket. That would be a typical Planet Doug video. But it's not really that exciting, is it? It's day-to-day life, it's logistics, it's behind the scenes. So, and it would take a long time. Making any kind of video takes so much time that you really should reserve a real video to something bigger, something more important. But I love recording all this kind of stuff. It's sort of interesting to me. So then a Patreon gives me an outlet. So I was thinking, for this bike ride to the ticket office, I can record it as a time lapse, just put a GoPro on my bike, record the bike ride just as a fun time lapse. Why not? I would like to do that anyway. But then if I put that on Planet Doug, I think it hurts my channel. It doesn't really help it, because as I've learned, nobody likes time lapses. I love time lapses. I think they're so amazing. But most people, if you put them on a YouTube channel, nobody watches them, nobody's interested in them. But then I can just shoot this time lapse and I can put it on a Patreon. So people who are interested in it can click on it, and yeah, and I can enjoy it at the same time. At the same time, I could shoot a Relive. I could get my smartphone up and running with Relive, and I can track my progress on a map, and I could make that a Patreon thing. Or I could even do a Google Maps blue dot segment, the bike ride to get there, where it's located, narrate the story using Google Maps. And all these things would be much quicker to do, much easier to do, and I can just toss all this stuff up onto Patreon, almost like it's a website. And I find that an attractive option. So, yeah, just a casual thought there. So moving right along, I think that's the bulk of what I wanted to talk about this morning. But I also have a YouTube story. I watched a couple of videos since yesterday, and I stumbled across a new YouTube channel from moto vloggers. And I'm sort of interested in moto vloggers these days because I follow Itchy Boots, and then I follow now this Canadian guy called Una Moto, who has decided to ride a motorcycle around the world. So I'm following him on his YouTube channel now. And of course, I've been following Two Up and Overloaded, though I've sort of lost track of them. They have a style that has lost my interest, which is kind of interesting. Because when I first found their channel, I liked their style. They do narration approach, where instead of shooting video in real time, they live a few days of their life, of their journey, and then the two of them sit down together somewhere on a sofa or at a table, in a room or out in the real world, and then they set up a camera and they tell the story in narrative form, looking back over the last few days, and they talk with each other and they tell the story not as a voiceover, but actually talking directly to camera, and then they will insert video clips from those days. And I kind of like that approach at the beginning, but now I don't know. I want the feeling of being with them on the journey, and now them just sitting down and telling the story. I don't know. It kind of doesn't feel like I'm there anymore. It feels like they're back in the United States. I'm sitting in their living room. We're having a cup of coffee, and they're telling me about their trip, right? It's not like it's happening in real time, where with a standard, say, Itchy Boots video, you're with her for the whole day, and you feel like you're experiencing it with her at the same time. You know you're not, but that's the illusion of telling a story in video or film form, right? So anyway, I don't really check up on them because I lose interest in the video. And I'm following that UK guy, We Hate the Cold, and he does the same thing. He narrates the story afterwards, but he's doing it in voiceover. He's not actually sitting in front of the camera. So his voiceover is actually a bit more interesting than telling the story in front of a camera. Anyway, I'm following all these moto vloggers, probably because there aren't very many cyclists out there. I'd follow them too, but yeah, cycling videos, I hate to say this because I'm kind of a cyclist myself. Cycling videos can be quite boring, but I don't think they have to be. The problem is cyclists get obsessed with numbers. It's really hard. It's really easy to fall into this pattern of all you talk about is numbers because you're monitoring everything. How many kilometers are you going to ride today? How many kilometers do you still have to ride before you get to the next town? How many meters are you going to climb today? How many meters did you go up and down, your elevation gain, elevation loss? It just becomes an endless statistical analysis of your bike journey. So when I was making cycling videos earlier, when I rode from Dumai to Bukittinggi, I made a deliberate effort when I'm speaking on video. I was just never going to talk about that. I tried very hard. I was never going to say, okay, I'm going to ride 80 kilometers today. Oh, I've ridden 55 kilometers so far today, and I have 55 more kilometers to go. You know, oh, I climbed 800 meters, and then I went down 400 meters. It's really hot today. It's 92 degrees. It's nothing but numbers, and I tried to force myself never to do that. I probably mentioned a few numbers from time to time, but anyway, my idea is to ignore the bike you're traveling by bicycle, but that's not the point. The point is where you are, not what you're doing. And don't talk about kilometers. Anyway, at least with motorcycle, well, even Itchy Boots will do it at the beginning of the day. She'll say, oh, today I'm going to ride 350 kilometers or something. But it's just sort of one brief statement. She's not going to get focused on it and talk about it all day long. And cyclists tend to bring it up all day long, giving you like a progress report. And motorcyclists don't do that. Anyway, this new YouTube channel that I came across is called 2 Kick Around, the number 2, and then kick around, all one word. And not a great name as far as I'm concerned, but hey, it doesn't really matter what your YouTube channel is called, I don't think. But anyway, it's an American couple. I don't know whether they're married or just boyfriend, girlfriend, but there are two people traveling together. And they started 2 years ago. I haven't done a deep dive into their channel, so I don't know a lot about them, but I know they're American. They're in their 30s, I'm assuming. And they've been traveling in Africa a lot with occasional breaks back in the United States. And they've been doing it for 2 years, and they're riding like off-road bikes. So this is like, boy, I forget the name of it, an XR600. Yeah, Honda XR600R. So they're 600cc bikes. That's the same size in terms of displacement as the bike that Itchy Boots is using, her Yamaha 1987 Tenere, whatever it's called. That's also a 600cc. A little bit, I think hers is a little bit more of a hybrid, off-road road. But these two people in 2 Kick Around, they're riding, I think they're dedicated off-road bikes. And from what I can tell, it's a pretty good choice for Africa because they're traveling off-road the whole time. Really, really, well, the video that I watched from them, they were in some mountains on a very, very rough road. And I don't know if they're always riding such really rough roads. But anyway, the video I watched, pretty tough terrain, steep hills, and they needed the 600cc of power in order to get up them. And but I guess what I find interesting about their channel, because I haven't really watched a lot of their videos yet, but what's interesting about them is that they've been doing it for 2 years. It seems like they're doing everything right. They're having a huge adventure. They're in Africa, which is an incredible adventure. They're flying a drone, so they get beautiful drone footage. They play music over the drone footage. And despite all, and they've been posting videos constantly. They've got a lot of videos on their channel, but very, very unpopular. So if you go all the way back in time to the beginning, their videos get like 300 views, 400 views, 500 views. I think they have 1,500 subscribers who have signed up to their channel. So my question right now, I don't have the answer yet, but my question is why? You know, that Canadian guy, Unamoto, he just started his journey and he's only riding in Canada, but I think his videos, I haven't looked lately. Give me 1 second to look it up. Yeah, his videos are relatively popular. 4,000 for his first one, 47,000 for his bike reveal video, 6,000 for the next one, 37,000, 15,000, 16,000, 11,000, 13,000. So he's doing really, really well. And he's only posted 7 videos, eight videos. And these other people, the 2 Kick Around, they're in Africa riding big, tough off-road motorcycles, posting videos for 2 years, and they have 1.4 thousand subscribers, and they hardly get any views at all for their videos. So I'm wondering, well, what the heck's going on there? Why are they not popular? So it might have something to do with something I'm not aware of yet. The one thing in the video that I watched kind of annoyed me was the interaction between the two of them, because what they have a headset, and maybe that puts people off because they have a Sena headset in their helmets where they can talk to each other. So during the day, they're riding on separate motorcycles. It's not 2-on-1. They're actually on 2 different motorcycles, but they can talk to each other through the headset, and the audio quality of that conversation isn't great. And maybe the fact that we as viewers were eavesdropping in a way on their conversation, like they're not really talking to us. Like when I'm watching the video, most of the time they're talking to each other. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that's why it's not popular. And I didn't think of that until just now. They're more having a conversation between themselves, and we're listening to them talk, but it's not like Itchy Boots, who is alone and she's talking directly to us. And maybe that engages an audience more. That's probably what it is. I never thought of it until just now. I mean, to kick around, they're not as fancy as Itchy Boots either. They don't have the fancy thumbnails. They don't have the big dramatic thumbnails. They don't have any of the clickbait. And their cinematography and their video is much more normal, like ordinary day-to-day life, rather than focusing on the cinematic and the dramatic. So, yeah, Itchy Boots videos are a little bit more appealing, I think, to a mass audience. I like the videos from To Kick Around because they are so real. They take video of the hardships. You know, they're in a town and they need to get a SIM card, and they're in this African market, and they're just going up to people saying, you know, do you know where we can get a SIM card? And there's a store. I watched this one segment. They're in front of a shop that has the name of the local telecom provider on it. We sell SIM cards for this company, and there's a big sign, and then they go there and nobody knows what they're talking about, and they're like, what? Like, and they're pointing at the sign like, look, SIM card here. That like, are we in the right place? Like, this is a store that sells SIM cards. Don't you have SIM cards? And they look at them like they're insane. Like, we don't know what you're talking about. You know, it's just like, those are the things that happen when you're overseas. And then they just talk to guys at random, and they end up buying a SIM card from some guys in the market who are just standing around. They're not at an office, and they don't have a desk. They don't have anything. And, you know, that's the sort of thing you're dealing with all the time. And I'd like to see that included in the story, because that's part of real life. And Itchy Boots tends to skip by all of that. She just does all that by herself in the background, and then doesn't talk about it and just focuses on the good stuff. So anyway, but there's this other thing in To Kick Around. There is this idea, or this pattern in the video I watched, where the man is constantly telling the woman what to do. So I guess he's more experienced on motorcycles, and he takes the lead. So he's riding the motorcycle up this steep, rough, rocky road, and then as he navigates a very difficult part, he then communicates to this woman that he's traveling with what to do. And he's like giving her step-by-step instructions. So he's like, okay, there's a curve coming up. At this curve, you want to stay to the left, far to the left, keep your speed up, really keep up a good head, keep your speed up. Then there's a spot where you go to the right, and then there's this, and he basically tells her what to do. And then occasionally when he sees her riding the motorcycle, and then he'll say, oh, nice job, you did well there, but what you should do is do, you know, he's like constantly correcting her riding. And I guess that is part of their relationship. She's probably okay with it. I'm guessing that he was the experienced rider, and then he is taking the lead, and he's teaching her how to ride the motorcycle and stay safe. And that's part of their dynamic. But I don't know, this video that I just watched, I think they've been doing it for 2 years already. You'd think by this point, she would have gotten the hang of it and she wouldn't need instructions anymore. Anyway, it just felt really weird to me that, I don't know, if I was riding a motorcycle with this guy and all day long he kept telling me what to do, eventually I'd lower the boom. It's like, dude, all right, I got it. You do not have to tell me what to do. I'm okay. Just leave me alone. Let me just ride the motorcycle. But I guess that is part of their dynamic. And it seems like it takes a little bit of physical strength to manhandle one of these motorcycles up these very difficult roads. So he's worried about her, and he is better at it. He can handle the motorcycle better. But hey, we've got Itchy Boots as an example. She's doing it all by herself, and she has no trouble controlling the motorcycle on difficult roads. So yeah, anyway, I only bring that up because I'm wondering whether his constantly giving her instructions starts to annoy people. But I don't know whether he does that in all the videos or not. So yeah, as I said, I haven't done a deep dive. But anyway, this channel is called To Kick Around. And I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning because it looks like their very first video from 2 years ago is about boxing up the motorcycles and shipping them to Africa. And I love stuff like that. I love stories that begin at the beginning. So I'm going to do a deep dive into their channel. One more YouTube story before I wind things up for today. I'm a big fan of shows like Deadliest Catch and Bering Sea Gold and Gold Rush, things like that. And I know a lot of it is produced or scripted to a certain extent, but I still feel like a lot of it is real. I mean, it's real enough to keep me engaged. But I realized that there was one person in Bering Sea Gold, a woman, Emily Rydell. I think she was the only woman gold dredger. Everybody else, they were all men, but there was one dredger owned and operated by a young American woman, Emily Rydell. And I don't think she was anybody's favorite. There was something a little bit off-putting about her. She's also an opera singer, and I don't know, that she was a little bit awkward on camera, and something about the opera, there was a little bit, it felt like she was a little bit awkward on camera. Let's just leave it at that. So I don't think she was the most popular member of the TV show. But at the same time, she was interesting, her story was good, and she was the only woman. So you'd think that would keep her like guaranteed to have a spot on the show. But I noticed that she disappeared, like out of nowhere. She just wasn't showing up anymore. And I started wondering, hey, what the heck happened to Emily Rydell? Why isn't she on Bering Sea Gold anymore? Is she still dredging? Is she off the show? And then I stumbled across something where it turns out she has a YouTube channel, which I had no idea. A lot of people have YouTube channels that I'm not aware of. But anyway, I went to Emily Rydell's YouTube channel, and I still don't know the story, but by scouring a bunch of videos, I learned that, well, she'd sort of been let go. And I couldn't quite get the details. She talked about it, but she didn't really go into details either. She said something like, yeah, I lost my job. And I think the job she was referring to was being on Bering Sea Gold. Like, I lost my job, and now I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. But she's still dredging. She's still operating her dredge in exactly the same way as before. She's just not doing it on the TV show anymore, but she's documenting all of it on YouTube. I just find that really interesting. So I watched a few of her videos on her YouTube channel, and I just found them really good, really interesting, because she, in a YouTube channel, in a YouTube video, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, and you have the freedom to include all the information that you might not get in the mainstream show. Because for the mainstream show, they might decide that it's too boring. Like they have to focus on the drama in order to get a mainstream audience. But on a YouTube channel, you can follow your own path and maybe you can find your own audience. And so, for example, someone like me, I'm interested in her videos because she does dive into the nitty-gritty, the details, and the background logistics and behind the scenes of the TV show. So I watched one video from her, for example, that was all about the claims, like in Nome, Alaska, where Bering Sea gold takes place. They always talk about claims. There's the Tom Cod, there's Claim 56, there's Claim 14, and all these people are running dredges during the summer or during the winter on these claims, but I don't know what these claims are. Like, who owns the claim? Okay, Sean Pomrenke is dredging on a claim called the Tom Cod, but does he own it? What does that mean? Does he own that property? Is it his claim? Like, how does that work? I always wondered about that. And then Emily Rydell, because people would ask her these questions on her YouTube channel, she made a whole video talking about what these claims are. And technically, they're not actually claims, they're leases. And basically, what she explained is the Alaskan government owns, they are the owner of that land. And then every 10 years or so, they have an auction where you can bid on a lease. So you can bid, and if you win the bid, you are issued a lease for that part of land, and then you can mine for gold on it. And it becomes it's not really a claim, but it's a lease, even though everybody calls them claims. So it's like, oh, that's how it works. So, okay. So anyway, she goes into all this background information, and her videos look to be pretty popular. Like, they get 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 views. So, yeah, I mean, she's doing really, really well with her YouTube channel. And she started up her own company, Pay Dirt Gold or something like that, where when she goes mining for gold, like dredging for gold, most of the gold, of course, she sells it and gets money for it. But now she has a website where you can actually buy gold from her. Almost, you can buy gold directly from her, and it's gold that she dredged near Nome, Alaska. So that's a very cool idea as well. And she's currently rebuilding her dredge. And I guess the pontoons on her dredge are leaking now and need to be replaced. So she was in the middle of getting brand new pontoons made out of aluminum, and she's documenting the entire process of building these pontoons and rebuilding her dredge. And I find all of that fascinating. They're doing that in the winter, and she's going to be dredging in the summer. And one of the explanations they gave about why she's not on the show anymore, by the way, is that she doesn't like to ice dredge. She prefers to dredge in the summer. But the show itself, because I guess of audience interest, they're shifting focus to the winter season and ice dredging. But she doesn't ice dredge, she only does the summer dredging. So that's why she was sort of let go from the show. Anyway, and there are probably other reasons involved. I don't really know what happened. But anyway, I just found it fascinating to discover that she has a YouTube channel and a lot of videos there. And yeah, they're really quite interesting. So that is Emily Rydell. That's the name of her YouTube channel as well. So I think that is it for this morning. I am going to get ready for the day, and my main job for today is to go to the Indomal Fast Ferry Company, part with some cold hard cash, cry some crocodile tears for that, and yeah, very exciting. Get a ticket for the ferry to go back to Port Dickson. So crazy, but hey, that's just how things worked out. And I cannot complain because of this detour to Jakarta, yeah, I'm going to be the proud owner of a gifted video editing laptop, and that's going to be very, very exciting. So yeah, very, very excited about that. Looking forward to it. So that's it for today's Planet Doug audio journal, aka the Planet Doug podcast, for what I think is November 17th. Is that right? I think so. All right. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of my rambling, my pet peeves of the modern world of internet and websites, things like that, booking tickets, all very exciting stuff. And I hope you come back next time, learn more about what's going on Planet Doug. And if you come back, I hope you do, I'll see you then.